My job can be a bit of a bore at times. Depends where I'm stationed, but typically nothing happens. I sit at a desk staring at CCTV cameras in a building so undisturbed that I might as well just be staring at photographs. I work for a security company of sorts that pretty much rents out people to watch over buildings when that particular building only needs security temporarily or is looking for some more permanent solutions. Sometimes it's something as simple as making the rounds at a hospital when staff is out of whack. Other times it's sitting in some abandoned building that's waiting to be torn down or refurbished. The latter became more common recently. I'm not sure why, but it seemed like there was an uptick in these kinds of cases this year. More and more buildings are being torn down or reworked. Buildings that a lot of the time are almost falling apart. Most of these places don't have anything worth taking, but the company I work for is still brought in to make sure squatters don't get in. I had been watching this one parking garage for about a week. It was scheduled to be torn down, so we were called in. It was as boring as it sounds, just sitting there looking at the cameras. Nothing moving, nothing going on. I started wishing that squatters would try and find somewhere to set up. Then I'd at least have something to do. My mind would wander as I sat in the office. Sometimes I would zone out for a while and not even realize it until a few minutes had gone by and my head slipped from my palm. After that week had gone by, and I had become so accustomed to the images on the CCTVs that when I closed my eyes, I could still picture them. I was informed that the demolition date had been moved. I was frustrated believing I would have to spend more time there until they informed me that I was being restationed. Whenever we see something suspicious, we have to report it for liability reasons, regardless of how harmless it is. A lot of incident reports ended with, probably just a raccoon. Since I hadn't made a single report the entire week I was there, the company decided it was a safe place to position the new guy. They wanted somewhere without much activity, to make sure he could even handle the long isolating hours without losing his wits. The next night I was to meet up with him at the site and give him a quick rundown of everything he would be doing. The night before I had gotten bored and was reading through some horror stories on the internet. I came across a bunch of stories from people who said that they started new jobs that had a strange set of rules attached. As my shift was ending, I started packing up when the thought crossed my mind that I could mess with the new guy a bit, maybe cure his boredom. So I grabbed a piece of paper and quickly jotted down 3 rules that meant next to nothing in the context of the job. Just vague references to things that might happen. Rule number 1. If you hear scratches after 3 a.m., unlock the door and push it open. But just a crack. If it swings open on its own, don't adjust it. Rule number 2. If you see activity on any 2 cameras at the same time, make sure to power cycle all cameras but the ones with activity. Rule number 3. No food or drinks between 3 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. Trust me. I wrote it on the mustiest piece of paper I could locate and slipped it under the keyboard so it was poking out just enough to be seen. The next day I drove out and met the guy. Honestly, I had completely forgotten about the list as I walked him through everything. Seemed like a nice enough kid, so I told him it would be an easy few nights for him, but I gave him my number if he had any questions or concerns. I had the night off, so I planned to just get some well-deserved sleep. Getting to rest my eyes while it was dark out wasn't exactly a luxury I was often afforded. I left the kid to his vices and headed home. After a quick dinner, I crawled into bed as planned. I'm not sure how long I was asleep, but after a few hours, I was awoken by my phone rattling on the nightstand. Reaching over, I turned on the screen and waited for my eyes to adjust. I recognized the number. It was the new kid. I looked at the time, 3:42 a.m. I dragged the rough skin on my palms across my face, trying to shake a little life into me. Clicking the screen, I answered the call and brought it to my ear. "What's going on?" I asked into the phone. I heard harsh breathing coming from the other end of the phone, mixed in with words that were failing to form. My blankets shifted as I started to sit up in bed. Something clearly wasn't right. "Slow down, kid. What's wrong?" It took him a moment to get a hold of himself, but when he did, he said that he just had a small snack. I was confused at first, bewildered at why he would feel compelled to call and tell me that. Then I remembered the note I had left him and connected the dots. I stifled a chuckle that was trying its best to make its way out. Hey, it's all right. Are you in the office?" I spoke into the phone. I wanted to keep the joke going, but still comfort him, as to not make him go insane. I thought he had just gotten to himself. He explained that he only saw the note after brushing some crumbs away. "Did you remember to lock the office door?" I asked him, trying to make him realize that he was safe without giving it away. He replied that he did. Well, then I started to speak when he interrupted me, to ask if he should still open the door when he hears the scratching. It took me a moment to remember the specifics of the rules I jotted down. "Yeah, if you hear scratches, still open it." From the other end of the line, I could hear him trying to control his breathing. Then, I heard him turning the sturdy lock that was on the door of the office. I quickly dangled my feet over the edge of the bed. "Wait, did you hear scratching?" I quickly said, standing straight. He confirmed that he did. I thought that maybe the raccoon had gotten to the door, until he told me the scratches came from near the top of the door. "Don't open that door." I spoke into the phone, hearing his end go silent. He mentioned the rules. I told him to close the door, lock it, and check over the security cameras to see if anyone was in the parking garage. He shuffled through the room. The troubled breathing from before returned, as he asked me what he was supposed to do repeatedly. I felt an odd sensation when he asked me which ones to power cycle. I knew what the rules said, but I didn't comprehend that he was seeing something. I thought he might have been messing with me, but the scratching on the phone, I could hear a heavy and drawn-out screech like metal against metal. The way the new kid spoke, I could hear tears welling up. His fear was genuine. He asked me what he was supposed to do if there was activity on each of the cameras. If they were on all of the cameras. At this point, I was running through my house throwing all my shoes and coat. I had even sent a message over to my boss to call the police. Something in my gut was telling me this was nothing to take lightly. I asked him to describe what he was seeing. I figured maybe a squatter or two finally discovered the place and figured it was somewhere to settle down for the night. He replied that he saw people. I felt relieved that it was a situation we could handle. That was until he continued, still struggling to maintain understandable sentences. But enough got through. He said that there were so many of them. They were all just standing around wearing what looked like dark robes. Each camera had groups of them in sight. The cameras were all on different floors, though. Before I could even get out of my driveway, I heard the new kid start to break down as the scratches got more and more intense. I wrote all those rules, but never thought to write down what to do if you had broken them. I don't know how it all happened. I think maybe his paranoia manifested something. I can't explain it. I just know how I felt driving down the road, hearing him scream as footsteps entered the room. I remember the collective muttering I heard, that blanketed his cries until his screams of anguish faded away. All of the sounds I heard after he fell silent wouldn't make any sense until I made it to the scene that was already bathed in red and blue lights. Being led to the office, I kept hoping it was a joke, but when we got there, I was denied the relief. His body laid in the corner, mangled. The cracks I heard on the phone were his bones being splintered. The wet smacking was his innards hitting the cement floor. And the tearing I heard was his skin being removed. The door, a heavy one at that, had been torn completely off his hinges, like sticks of TNT had been strapped to it. Of course, all the cameras and recording equipment fared just about as well as the new kid did. All smashed up with anything digital ripped out. It was easy to tell something had been here, from the deep grooves dug into the door to the garage floors themselves. It was hard to miss, the way the stagnant air of it all had been disturbed. All the dust had been lifted off the garage floors, kicked up by marching footsteps, by a horde of people. You could even see what looked like scorch marks. So many of those marks, all leading to the office. Needless to say, the demolition was rescheduled to take place on the next day, in hopes to cover whatever happened that night. I think I'll try to switch to the day shift from now on.